And this is a reporting issue for the company that paid the non-disclosure agreement with Stormy Daniels. The issue is whether it was a legal expense or a business expense. So Bragg says, well, it should have been in one category rather than the other, and the reason it was in the wrong category is Trump was trying to cover up that he was using money for this purpose, to violate federal law. And you might be asking yourself, what does a DA have to do with federal? Nothing. That's why this case should have been dismissed immediately. The judge in this case, in the so-called hush money case, which is a non-disclosure agreement case. That's what it, hush money is when you're like giving over a bag of 50s or $100 bills to the mob, right? Or you're paying off somebody illegally. Non-disclosure agreements are not illegal. They're sanctioned by the law. They're contracts. And you negotiate these contracts. You keep your mouth shut, we'll give you a severance. In other words, confidentiality is maintained and we'll give you a severance. This happens probably in America 10,000 times a day. Maybe 1,000, maybe 100. I don't know, but it happens all the time with every major corporation and even smaller businesses. It's happened with NBC. They did this. It's happened on Capitol Hill. It's happened with, I bet, every one of these media conglomerates, every single one of them. It's not considered illegal. It's not a crime. It's not considered, it's an arrangement that you make. One entity with another entity. They're called non-disclosure agreements. No matter how many times I point out that this isn't about hush money, because it sounds so criminal, doesn't it? Even our friends on cable and radio, they keep calling it the hush money case. Well, that may be in their minds. It's not my mind. Now, that said, so we have this judge. He's a Democrat. He's an elected Democrat. He's contributed to Democrats. He's like this other judge. They elect him in these heavy Democrat areas. If they want to get reelected, they better deliver the goods. This is why I've never supported electing judges. I support term limits for judges, which I think would actually provide more integrity because they know their time in the court's limited. Just do the very best you can and then get the hell off. It's not a lifetime job, but on the other hand, you elect them and then they want to get reelected. And we have this all over the country at the lowest local trial court level. These guys are all elected. Remember all that nonsense in Florida in 2000? They were all elected. So when they're elected in New York, you know what you're up against. And that's why these cases have been brought where these judges and these prosecutors and these potential trial juries are. So the U.S. Attorney's Office, which I remind everybody is still under Biden, the week before the date is set on the trial, they happen to come across what was 30,000 pages of documents. Now we know it's close to 100,000 pages. 100,000 pages of documents. And you got to go through the documents. And you're not just going through the documents to see what document might be relevant for or against your client, the defendant. But it might lead you to other discovery activity. Well, who is this guy? Well, we haven't had a chance to talk to that guy. They hid the ball. It's been going on for over a year. They hid the ball. The investigation's been going on almost 2 years. The Fed said we don't want it. The prior DA in this case said, nah, we're not going to do this. And then Bragg says, yeah, I think we are going to do this. And so when you're a defendant, you lawyers need time to comb through it, not just and see, is there anything we need to pursue here? Another witness, certain documents, other motions, and so forth. So we need time to do this. Now, under the Sixth Amendment to the Federal Constitution, the Bill of Rights, you have a right to competent counsel. You have a right to counsel that knows what the hell they're doing and has time to do it. And these judges are blown right through the Sixth Amendment. Chutkan did it in Washington, D.C. on the so-called January 6th case. Same here. So they had a hearing the other day, and the judge says, well, DA Bragg wasn't responsible for this. It was the U.S. Attorney's Office, so you have 3 weeks. And we're starting the trial in 3 weeks. Now, whoa. What does it have to do with whether Bragg did it or not? You have a right to counsel, not as a show, but as a reality. that counsel has to have time to prepare their defense. It doesn't matter that it was the U.S. Attorney's Office or Bragg's office that withheld 100,000 pages of documents. It matters that it was withheld. And in order for President Trump, and if it were somebody else in a different case, to have a fair shot at a trial, real due process, they have to have time to prepare. This judge said 3 weeks. And not only that, says the prosecutor, we went through the documents because they have unlimited funds. They can have 50 people working on it. We only found about 100 documents that are even relevant. The prosecution doesn't get to decide which documents are relevant to the defense. The defense gets to decide which documents are relevant to the defense. I mean, after all, the prosecutor's not on the same side as the defense. And of course, no lawyer is required to rely on what the government represents. They have every right to independently pursue this. 3 weeks it gives them. Why? Because they want to convict Trump of some crime. And that crime is a non-crime. And I will do this as simply as I know how. The backbenchers have already picked up on it. They call themselves legal analysts. We call them legal analysts. You have a state law on basically administrative reporting requirements for corporations. You violate that requirement, if they prove it, it's a misdemeanor. It's not a felony. Now, what we have here is a non-disclosure agreement that was drafted by Michael Cohen, a convicted multiple felon who's such a liar that even when he pled to the U.S. Attorney's Office, they refused to use him as a witness. That's how bad this guy is. And he lies all the time. He's lied about AI recently, some research he did. He covered up that it wasn't real research, that it was AI-created document. The guy is pathological. But he will have to be the key witness, even for Bragg. Anyway, so the feds say, no, we're not doing this. The district attorney says, who hates Trump, no, we're not doing this. And Bragg says, oh, yeah, we are going to do this. And this is a reporting issue for the company that paid the non-disclosure agreement with Stormy Daniels. The issue is whether it was a legal expense or a business expense. You got that? Whether it's a legal expense or business expense. So Bragg says, well, it should have been in one category rather than the other, and the reason it was in the wrong category is Trump was trying to cover up that he was using money for this purpose. For what purpose? To violate federal law. And you might be asking yourself, what does a DA have to do with federal? Nothing. That's why this case should have been dismissed immediately. But they rejigger the words and the semantics to try and make it look differently. Stick with me. We can do this. So at the federal level, what Bragg is doing is he is using the Jack Smith argument. Remember, he's the special counsel at the federal level, but he was the prosecutor who went after John Edwards in North Carolina. He's using the same argument that Smith used in the Edwards case to turn these so-called misdemeanors into felonies. Okay, stay with me. Well, what's that? Well, you see, not only was this a minor, a minor what? A minor recording of an expense in one category or the other. It was, in fact, a federal campaign violation because, you see, Donald Trump wanted to cover this up and put it in one category versus the other because his corporation now has made an illegal campaign contribution because corporations can't make direct contributions. What are you talking about? Because he covered up his relationship with Stormy Daniels with a non-disclosure agreement that is an illegal corporate contribution to what? To positive election coverage. What? Yes, if that was out there, that would hurt his campaign. So he paid for that using corporate funds, put it in the wrong category. so nobody would figure it out. And that had a direct relationship with his federal financing of his campaign for president, because that paid for an effort to keep Stormy Daniels quiet, which would have been a negative impact on his campaign. Therefore, it is an illegal federal contribution. Okay, not to get more complicated, Jack Smith tried that against John Edwards and he lost. So it's not only bizarre, but he takes the precedent of a loss and applies it anyway. Why? Because he's going to have an all-Democrat jury and he knows they'll convict Trump. I'm not done. So what does that have to do with New York's misdemeanor? Because under New York law, if the underlying violation is a felony, then the misdemeanor converts to a felony. So he's arguing, just look at all the steps. So he's arguing that Trump, by them putting the record of the disclosure agreement, that is the hush money, in the wrong category, was trying to cover up an illegal contribution to his campaign from his corporation at the federal level because he was hiding negative publicity. That helped his campaign. Thus, that's a felony. Thus, that turns this misdemeanor into a felony. So everybody who has two brain cells to rub together, who's practiced law for 14 and a half minutes, says, what the hell is going on here? This is ridiculous. No wonder the Fed said no, and no wonder the prior DA who hates Trump said no. But Bragg says, I can do this. And I'm going to have a jury and a judge that lets me do it. So Trump's lawyers go in front of this judge and they say, Judge, what is this? You need to dismiss the case. He doesn't have jurisdiction. He doesn't have federal jurisdiction. The judge says, no, I think we'll have a trial. Now, Donald Trump said that the individual who's leading the prosecution for Bragg's team is a Biden guy. Oh, really? I didn't see this in the media. What's he talking about? This guy who's leading the prosecution for the Bragg team, he didn't start out in Bragg's office, in the DA's office in Manhattan. He was the acting Associate Attorney General, the number 3 position at the Department of Justice under Joe Biden. He leaves that office to work with Letitia James on the civil case against Trump. Once that's underway, ready for this? He leaves that office and joins the Bragg office and leads the prosecution against Donald Trump in this case. Oh, that's just a coincidence, Mark. The number 3 guy at Justice goes over to help Letitia James. Then when that's underway, he goes over to help Alvin Bragg. Joe Biden has no role in this. You can't prove it. Do you have a recording? Do you have any fingerprints? We know exactly what's going on here. Gets worse. Trump has a press event the other day. And he comes out and lays into the judge and lays into the prosecution, and he exposes this individual by name. And he explains this. And a lot of people who are watching weren't even aware of this. They're, holy mackerel. And so what does the judge do yesterday? What does the judge do in this? This is worse than a Stalinist situation because we pretend we have a justice system. Stalin never pretended. He put them through the ringer 30 minutes and then had them shot out the back. Shot. This is the pretending of a justice system, what I call a Praetorian justice system, which has an impact across the country. People do not trust any of this anymore, and they have every reason not to. So let's check this out. Go.
This morning, Donald Trump is under a partial gag order prohibited from making public statements about witnesses, court staff, and jurors in his upcoming criminal trial over a hush payment to a porn actress.
He's a Democrat judge. He wants to do that because they're all trying to damage Trump as much as possible.
Trump has attacked presiding Judge Juan Merchan, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, and likely witnesses like Michael Cohen.
See how the media do this? They're trying to destroy him. They're trying to put him in prison. They're trying to bankrupt him. They're trying to level the playing field so Joe Biden doesn't have any opponents. Biden now has a top group of slip and fall, ambulance-chasing lawyers targeting Robert Kennedy to try and keep him off the ballot as a third party. So they want Trump in prison. They tried to keep him off the ballot. to clear the field for Biden, and they want to blow out Robert Kennedy. They want to give him Secret Service protection, despite the fact his father was assassinated, by the way, by a Palestinian terrorist, Sirhan. And so now, look how the media twisted. He's attacked Cohen. Cohen is a felon who lies for a living. He's attacking the judge. The judge is a leftist. And he attacks Bragg, who, like Letitia James, ran for office saying that she's going to get Trump. And how dare Trump respond and attack them? And so the very judge involved says, all right, now I'm going to put a gag on it. You're not allowed to talk about me. You're not allowed to talk about the prosecutors. You're not allowed to talk about a witness like Cohen. Matter of fact, keep your mouth shut. MSNBC can talk. CNN can talk. The prosecutor can have talking indictments, as we call them, laying out stuff that he doesn't even have to put in indictments. We know you're running for president. You're trying to explain what's going on. You're not happy. You're responding to these people. Be quiet.
Want to see more? Sign up for Levin TV.